We saw them start with 4 Brazilian drivers and 4 of the very best Brazilian drivers, excuse me. Jeff Giassi, one of those real to virtual crossovers as well. Lasse Sorensen on his debut very much improved the squad and now brings his Fire SimSport teammate Lasse back into the mix as well. We'll take a look at the points as they run right now, though RAG, of course, still on top.
And if you're Mehdi right now, you are absolutely thrilled. 70 points now to his name for RAG, and they are ahead of Mercedes by 20 points. Williams Esports down in third. Of course, 39 points to them. Dara McCormack putting in a huge shift for them, claim to a victory at Monza and a 4th at the Nürburgring. Team Redline in a, should we say, unfamiliar territory. I would have thought they would have wanted to be a little bit higher than this currently. Of course, 4th currently for our current champions in terms of a team's championship. That coming all the way from Munich as well, just before Munich when they were crowned in the online phase. Porsche Coanda as well in 5th. Watch out for them. They can have a strong ending because we have yet to see the likes of Joshua Rogers, G2 Esports as well, 6th place for them. We've yet to see Max Benneker as well. Of course, Mouse down in 7th place. They're going to be really looking for Patrick Holzman to do something here.
Ultimately, all you've got to do is get into that top 6 in this team championship. We reset the points for tomorrow. We go from a fresh slate once again, and therefore, as long as you're in the top 6, that's all that matters. Yes, RAG will be delighted. Their other drivers have a lot easier of a task on their hands, but yeah, I think ultimately, first doesn't mean that much. It's all about just being that top 6.
It certainly is. And Apex Racing Team, of course, further down, we obviously allude to the driver that we're watching, Kevin Ellis Jr., representing that team as well. 12 points to their name, but keenly enough, still ahead of Furia and FaZe Clan, but only 2 points away from the bottom. So they're really going to need to grind out a big result here. Kevin Ellis Jr. will have a great chance here around Spa to do just that. So let's wait and see if they can certainly achieve that. Off that basis, though, RAG in control, but still plenty of names. We haven't seen necessarily some of the best drivers for some of the teams.
We say best drivers, but so often at this level of sim racing, I have to point out that George, you and myself, we might be both part of, let's say, RAG Esports, but maybe you are faster at Spa, maybe I'm faster at the Hockenheimring, and so these team managers have had to place their drivers in the right groups to make the most of the speed that they have. And I think that's one of the most curious things about this format, is trying to figure out where the other drivers from the other teams are going to end up as well.
Well, there was only one movement, wasn't there, throughout the entirety of this. Dara McCormack getting swapped around with Daniel Pashtor, and that was the only play we saw in terms of the movements of the drivers and the rosters. So quite intriguing. Obviously, they're allowed to, amalgamate, shift drivers through different groups, obviously in relation to where they were, obviously during the drivers phase. But Dara McCormack, the sole movement. And I think that's a really good play there from Williams, because obviously they managed to get themselves 25 points at Monza.
Dara McCormack said he wasn't feeling that comfortable with the track selection on Thursday. He really does not like the Hockenheimring, and so I think he was quite delighted to have Monza and the Nürburgring with which he could start with. And that's where, sometimes if you're not feeling comfortable, get your fastest driver to be in their most comfortable spot and get maximum points on the board.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. As we take a look at Ian Porter, getting himself prepared, of course. They've got a practice session currently underway at this moment in time. Folks, just getting the drivers nurtured once again to this circuit, because, of course, they are coming in thick and fast. We've got such an outstanding list right ahead of us. We are going to be returning to the Nürburgring after Spa, so they do need to make sure they get the practice in on each individual track, because they do change each time around, just to test these brilliant athletes that we have behind the wheels here. There's Kevin Siggy representing Team Redline, of course, coming off the back of finishing 9th at Hockenheimring, nestling only 3 points to his name so far. He's going to be calling upon his best form that we saw, where he would become a double race winner in yesterday's team, should I say the day before's team championship, in order to lead up to qualifying for the final 12. He could not quite recapture that form, though, in the final 12.
Yeah, that driver championship was one that we thought maybe Siggy in that first day showed himself as one of the favorites, but just not firing off in the same strength come the second day of competition. Instead, it was his Redline teammate Jeffrey Rietveld that took the charge towards the front, ultimately coming short and being able to place 3rd in the championship. There's a look at the teammates. You got Rietveld and Luke Bennett standing up, and of course the team managers, as well as Endo Benito, sitting down and watching over the screen. The one thing that we should note, you can see that the team manager's got a headset on. He's got the ability to talk to the driver at will. Driver can respond as well, and that's for any information that might need to be given. If there's lap times that you want to try and share in qualifying, so there's some benchmarks that with which you could work, and maybe you're trying to get the driver to be a bit more aggressive in a particular corner, as I heard Will Chadwick trying to help out some of his drivers earlier. There's so much communication that goes on the pit wall.
Yeah. the best moustache you'll find in sim racing, certainly here at ESL as well. There is the trophy that every team are vying for right now. And of course, it won't be decided just yet. Of course, we've got these preliminary stages to get through first before we whittle it down and head into our final round tomorrow. And certainly that's when that trophy will be lifted aloft. By who? We're not quite sure just yet. Currently, it's RAG on top, much to the delight of Romain Grosjean's team. Of course, former Formula 1 driver, now current IndyCar driver. And I'm sure he'll be watching on as well to see how his team does. Of course, we've only got a small matter of a few more moments left in practice, so the drivers getting the last-minute preparations in. It's oh so vital to make sure you're dialed in. There's Kevin Ellis Jr. making his way through Malmedy and just getting himself teed up for a move round Rivage section. The pressure will be mounting, though, as we head into qualifying. You see the practice banner there on the top. Very soon, that'll change to qualifying and we will be underway.
One lap again for these drivers. It's this unique format that we've really been enjoying since the season begun in earnest back at Katowice. And now for the drivers that are newer to this format, that's where I think one of the learnings has come. They've also had to learn about LAN events, the lights, the sounds, and in the case of Kevin Ellis Jr., we talked about the shootout. He was saying that just as he started his lap, he saw a cameraman pop into his eye line just to get that perfect shot of Kev's face as he rode around the lap. That's a little bit distracting, isn't it?
It can be. It certainly can be indeed. Qualifying, though, you just saw the banners on the back of the LED boards. They certainly are underway. The studio, the arena as well, lighting up here at this fantastic event we have here in the ESL R1. Brought to you by Aramco here at the Gamers8. All the drivers in the rigs getting ready for the start of qualifying as we pan across. AEC Ian Porter, we just saw him getting himself set and ready. All the drivers behind their wheels getting set. There's Tommy Usgaard as well, looking to try and ignite his, well, certainly his race. We'll need a big qualifying session this time around. 8th last time out, only scoring that mere 4 points. We'll need a lot more, and Heroic are going to be calling upon him because he has been, it has to be said, one of their strongest talents.
Yeah, of course, left Porsche Coanda Esports at the end of 2022 to join up with Heroic, bring the next crop of Norwegian drivers on forward. That's something that Tommy Usgaard has been focusing on over the last couple of years. He brought in Oscar Bikstrad to Coanda, formed the Coanda Junior squad to bring the even management crew, to have that little bit more of a database from which to work with. Then, as Bikstrad made his way into the Porsche Esports Super Cup, he got promoted to the main Coanda Esports team and now joins Usgaard at the crew over at Heroic.
Yeah, the Norwegian sensation now making his way up through towards Kemmel. Remember, we are looking for a 38.7 in the first sector. He will be making his way towards Lake Com and very shortly make his way through Malmedy. Again, we take a look at the wheel play on the top right of your screen. Again, as I said, physical. 38.7 though in the first sector. That's bang on where he should be as well, making his way through Malmedy now at turn 7, down towards turn 8 at Rivage as well. Keep it pinned to the inside again, dropping to second as he'll then put his foot to the floor and just try and knead the car out of this section towards Jackie Expend, where he then enters in 3rd gear, then back on the throttle again, up to 4th, use all the track there on the right-hand side, and now you've got the very deep descent. That is Puon, where you need to keep it tight.
Down a gear, but as brave as you can be to stamp onto the power early, and as Usgaard jumps into that 5th gear, watch as he straddles the curb on the outside, now sweep to the left. Just as you enter under that VRS bridge, onto the brakes, down into 3rd gear and clamber once again onto the curb on the inside. Sweep through the piff path and now to maybe one of the most important corners on the track. It's out of here that you begin a 1.8 kilometer climb towards Blanchimont to the flat out corner that leads to that final braking zone at the bus stop chicane.
Looked a little messy coming through campus, it has to be said, but the time is looking good at 59.7 in sector 2. We want to see around a 59.9 in sector 2, so he's looking in a good vein of form. Tommy Usgaard could be sensing something brilliant here for Team Heroic. Could it be a heroic lap as he comes out of Blanchimont now? Bus stop chicane coming up next. Only a matter of 2 bends remain as he now makes his Porsche, or manipulates the Porsche, heading through the next right-hander, now in towards the next left. One straight beckons, only a margin left. Now up towards the line. Where's it going to be for Tommy Usgaard? Is it going to be oh so good? It's a 35.8 in the final sector. It is good. A 2:14.4. That could be a good time. time.
We have seen pole dip as low as 14-1s, 14-2s, and so we'll see how it stacks up to the rest. Kevin Siggy in the first sector, slightly slower in that second sector as well, and so in that red line BMW, after already being involved in dramatic chaos in the opening race of the group at the Hockenheim Ring, Siggy will hope that this qualifying lap can put him once again towards the front and with a chance of getting the points on the board for Team Redline. The 2:14.4 the target, a 2:14.415, 8 thousandths behind.
Goodness me, 8 thousandths, a mere gap between them, nothing between them whatsoever. Mitchell de Jong now makes his way down through towards the final couple of bends as well, the man from the States, 38.7. Already in that first sector again. That's pretty much where we've seen it. 59.8 in the middle sector as well. That's pretty good. Again, Porsche's looking very alive and well heading through Spa-Francorchamps. Big sector 3 time required now as he makes his way up towards the line. 35.8 plants him now in third place. 24 thousandths outside. All the cars currently within. All three, I say, a quarter of a tenth.
We are getting the closest qualifying sessions we have ever seen today. The team championship has very much incentivized the drivers to deliver for their outfits. Kevin Ellis Jr., sector 1 and sector 2, trending towards Tommy Osgaard's pole position time, but now through that corner where he drifted the rear end in that hot lap shootout come the very final action on Thursday. A little bit tidier this time by, and the Scotsman with a 14.322 jumps to the top.
Fantastic lap from Kevin Ellis Jr. A stellar middle sector was certainly what delivered that result as well. Also gained a tenth on where he should, well, probably, a 35.8 was good enough. He went and did a 35.7 at that point. Erhan Yujovski sets himself a 38.7 in the first sector as well. That seems to be a consistent theme in amongst most of the drivers here, but looking to go ahead again and take yet another pole position as he did last time out at Hockenheim Ring. The Macedonian, the magnificent Macedonian Yujovski up towards the line, and that is going to plant him though 5th place and nearly 3/10 out of the running.
Yeah, didn't look happy at the line either. A shake of the head and a bit frustrated, all things considered. Can Marko Pejic find some speed in the final sector? First sector a little bit off the pace, but the second sector where he found a little bit more time to get up towards that Osgaard time with a 2:14.4. A little bit tentative on that second turn in, trying to get the car rotated and onto the power. Look at them run wide and straight line it to the start-finish line. It's another 14.4, but this one towards the back is a 5th place time for the number 5.
Yeah, just over 1.5 tenths off the top time set by Kevin Ellis Jr. and is looking pretty strong at this point. But Lasse Sorensen, as I said before, does have form here. Generally, race trim is better for him than qualified trim, but do not count him out, though the first sector is looking a little bit slack. Second sector, 59.8, is probably a tenth or so out of where he needs to be. But the Furia driver representing his team once again, coming up towards the line. He will, of course, lay down a foundation. He's going to try and join those at the top end, but can't. 6th fastest is where he stays.
Here comes Patrick Holtman, and look at that second sector into the 59.6s, albeit just by 0.02 of a second. Yes, that first sector is good as well. Is this Audi about to roar to the top? Patrick Holtman has not enjoyed the best of the ESL R1 campaigns, and now finally is his chance to deliver for Maus. Max Benecke already our ESL R1 sponsored by Aramco Drivers Champion, and now Patrick Holtman to the line, loses out to Kevin Ellis Jr.
And that only makes Kevin Ellis Jr.'s lap all the more impressive, but fair play to Patrick Holtman, who got in close, looking to bounce back after qualifying 8th last time around. He's on the front row, at least for now, but Freddie Rasmussen, 3 times in the top 3 in F1 Esports since 2018, hasn't been outside the top 2 in the last 2 years as well. Rasmussen making his way up towards the line. Can the Great Dane initialize a better time than last time? 6th place, just over a tenth of a second, nearly a tenth and a quarter outside that of Kevin Ellis Jr.
Here comes the BMW BS competition, number 87 of Ibrahim Khan. Best of the BMWs currently 4th with Kevin Siggy, and Ibrahim Khan's second sector of a 59.8 loses 0.2 or so to the benchmarks that the fastest have seen so far. This is where the BMW sometimes has heated up its rear tires if he'd been pushing it too hard, but Khan looks nice and tentative as he storms onto the power. Short run to the line, it's going to be another 14, but this time a 14.6, and it's the slowest time so far, but only 0.3 off.
Yeah, not ideal, certainly just outside that of Erhan Yujovski's time as well. Jack Keithley, who's ever ever experienced, as well as already seen Dara McCormack go on and do brilliant things in these first 2 races we had, of course, at Monza in the Nürburgring. Now it's all upon him now, looking to bounce back after the 6th place qualifying session at Hockenheimring. Makes his way through the bus stop, and with a 38.9 in the first sector, it's not going to be useful. 59.7 in the middle sector is where he needs to certainly be, but that final sector, not enough. It's 9th place for Jack Keithley.
Here comes Ian Porter. The first sector actually relatively competitive. However, it's the second sector where he is the only driver in this Group B, race number 4, to slip into the 1 minute bracket. In fact, almost going into the 61-second bracket. We are going to see Porter likely down the back, but let's see the margin. Let's track that improvement going back to the very start of the ESL R1 campaign in 2023, where he was, what, about 1.5 seconds off the pace. Ellis Jr. with a 2:14.322, only 100th back went to Patrick Holtzman. Not sure what the time was there, but Ian Porter doesn't look too unhappy.
No, I don't think so. I think obviously there was some positives to take from that. Certainly that first sector was sensational, but Kevin Ellis Jr. bouncing back, he received a penalty at the Hockenheimring, but a thumbs up there from the man representing Apex Racing Team, and that's how you do it, Kev. He's back.
What a lap it was. Here's the starting grid, though.
It certainly is, and it has to be said, Ian Porter still at the back of the grid. Alongside him, Ibrahim Khan in 11th place. 10th place going to Erhan Yuyovsky with Jack Keithley alongside him too. Marco Pejic joined, of course, by Lasse Sorensen as well, 7th and 8th respectively, as well as 5th place going to Mitchell de Jong and Freddie Rasmussen. Rasmussen starting 6th. In 3rd place is Tommy Usgaard. 4th place, Kevin Siggy. 2nd place, though, Patrick Holzman, who is, of course, going to be starting on the front row of the grid. Your fastest time, though, your ALJ fastest lap, going to Kevin Ellis Jr. He's on pole as we make our way into the next race here at Spa-Francorchamps, and fresh off the back of that stellar run where, of course, he went down to the shootout to battle to be in the final 12 in the Drivers' Championship. He's back here in the Teams' Championship, proving again why he loves Spa oh so much.
I think the crazy thing is that time that he just put in qualifying is only 1/10 of what he did in the hot lap shootout, a lap where he said he didn't feel that much pressure and managed to slide through the final corner.
Incredible stuff indeed, and there you can see, as I said, ALJ fastest lap, pole position going to that of Kevin Ellis Jr. What a time for him to certainly rise to the occasion, and certainly for that of Apex Racing Team. They're going to look to try and garner every little bit they can out of this, and you know what Kevin Ellis Jr. is like. He doesn't mind a scrap, and certainly here around Spa-Francorchamps, that's exactly what you need. You need a tenacious talent, a tenacious figure behind the wheel that doesn't mind, of course, running wheel to wheel. This man's just who you need behind that wheel.
And I mentioned his oval racing experience. I wonder if that somewhat helps him in a race like this, where draft plays so much of a factor. Knowing where to position your car, when to defend the inside, when to try and cover the outside line, those are those split-second decisions that you can only really build up by racing.
Absolutely. Of course, the Audi R8 LMS is considered one of the most versatile cars in racing. We've seen it again here in Rennsport as well. A fantastic platform here for these young talents, of course, these superb, superior athletes that we see here in sim racing. Of course, we've arrived here at the Gamers8. We're witnessing some of the best in the world go at it, or the best in the world go at it here at ESL R1. Very soon we're going to enter Spa-Francorchamps, and the final moments of practice just kicking in. The big question is, though, Arjuna, I'm going to ask you this. Where do you see this going? What does Kevin Ellis Jr. need to do to solidify his place at the front?
Well, we know Kevin Ellis Jr. is going to have one target. That is win this race. He was the strongest of the Apex Racing Team drivers in the ESL R1 campaign. Very much carried the team on his back in some ways. And now we'll need to try and set the rest of his team up in somewhat of a successful spot. So, well, as we head into that final group of the day, Jamie Fluke hopefully doesn't have to get the elbows out too much. Apex, as they run right now, have secured just 11 points so far. Remember, top 6, the target.
Yeah, they came into this one with 12 to their name, remember, of course, prior to Kevin Ellis Jr., of course, putting together that 11th place last time out. It looks like there's going to be ones in the number, but this time it could be just a solitary one, which I'm sure he'd be absolutely pleased about, because that will garner him 25 points. But we'll have to wait and see whether he can do that. The drivers lined up onto the grid as we await to go racing. The timer is ticking down now, and very shortly, as you'll see from the arena, there will be all 5 red lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, and the 5th light, and it's pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 go. It's certainly up at the front here. Kevin Ellis Jr. getting a huge start. Patrick Holzman unable to usurp him right from the beginning as well. Further down, we can see Tommy Usgaard also trying to get himself into the mixed heroic, looking to try and garner onto a top 3 place at the expense of Team Redline, who have had to fall back Foul in 4th place as well, as we now see them rise up now through Eau Rouge and Radion. A stellar start though from Kevin Ellis Jr., just what he needed, Arjuna.
And now he's got to watch though, with the BMW slightly slower in a straight line, how is that going to play itself out? The double, the triple, the quadruple toe, who's going to be the most aggressive? It's the Maus Audi that has to watch to the inside as Tommy Osgaard goes bold, but Patrick Holzman goes bolder.
He certainly does, wheel to wheel now as they come through Lakecom. They've got Malmedy coming up next. Osgaard now making his way down the inside, but can't quite find it. Very well defended from Patrick Holzman. Kevin Siggy as well, waiting in the wings. Another look down the inside here from Osgaard as he looks to try and perhaps try and weave a way through. He might have an opportunity. He's looking very dynamic in the Porsche, but look at Kevin Siggy now under pressure again. Mitchell de Jong asking all the major questions, just not quite enough to make a move as Freddie Rasmussen dances with Lasse Sorensen.
Yeah, for Mitchell de Jong after the 3rd place finish in the first race, to be able to get another top 5 is what he will want. Look at that down the hill in through Pouon behind the G2 Esports BMW of Freddie Rasmussen. Lasse Sorensen trying to cover off Jack Keithley. The Mercedes uses up its tyres relatively quickly, but this is one track where it equalizes a little bit more. Not the rears, not the fronts rather getting eaten up so much. The rears get hit hard too, and I was talking with Dara McCormack a moment ago. He says the Spa suits the Mercedes quite well.
Certainly does. 7 laps of racing ahead. As I said before, one of the longest tracks you'll see in this calendar. 4.352 miles ahead of them. That's 7.004 kilometers, 19 turns, as we have said, as they make their way through Corbeil-Paul Frere. Very soon Blanchimont will be up next. Great chance to get the draft in place as well. The slipstream oh so effective and can be very, very useful as we now look and see Lasse Sorensen now running on board with him as he makes his way down through towards the bus stop chicane. Currently locked in behind that of Freddie Rasmussen in the G2 Esports BMW. 2 BMWs in tandem here at this point as well. Enter Jack Keithley in the Mercedes in behind 2. Marco Pejic in unfamiliar territory in 11th, and he's taken a drive-through.
Now, was that a jump start? I didn't necessarily catch it off the line, but the only thing I can think of for Pejic to immediately dive off to pit lane is that, well, unfortunately, he mistimed the jump on the start.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, now he will sink to the back of the field. Ian Porter will now take up 11th place as we now see Tommy Osgaard coming out of La Source now, powering up through towards Eau Rouge and Radion. Kemmel Straight will deliver certainly a clinic for him as they now rise up now, heading up through towards this very, very long straight, but an uphill climb certainly is what they'll find as now they head up towards Lakecom now. Kevin Ellis Jr. is now marshalling out a gap of near 7/10 of a second. Osgaard now putting his foot to the floor as he looks to look either way on Patrick Holzman, who once again goes defensive. A battle in the back as well with Jack Keithley and Herhan Yujovski as they now squabble heading through Lakecom. Again, twisting of the wheel here as they head through Malmedy. Osgaard waiting in the wings in 3rd place within 0.3 of a second. You get the sense that he's just waiting to pick his spot.
I mentioned for Patrick Holzman, not necessarily the most successful and enjoyable of ESL R1 sprint campaigns. However, for Maus, with both Yuri Kastel and Patrick Holzman starting off this team championship, I don't want to say they put their 2 weaker drivers in, but they put the 2 drivers in that have had the less success over the course of the championship. Moritz Lohner, Max Benecker will be up next, and of course, with 2 drivers like that, if Patrick Holzman can hold on here and add 20 valuable points to the cores, Maus will be feeling very confident about their chances of heading on to tomorrow's racing.
Absolutely. Freddie Rasmussen as well, 2-time Formula E Accelerate champion as well, makes his way through. He's currently got his defensive armour up because, of course, Lasse Sorensen is hot on his heels. Just look at him, nigh on pushing the car round the track as they come through Campus and Stavelo, heading through towards Corbeil-Paul Frere once again. Lasse Sorensen currently sat in 7th place, still chasing after Rasmussen, as I alluded to. Mitchell de Jong further up as well in 5th. Of course, they'll be looking for big results as well from him, and of course Joshua Rogers, the man who would go close to winning the Drivers' Championship until it all went wrong around the Nürburgring. We're currently seeing a rear view here of Rasmussen's car as they head down towards the bus stop chicane. Lasse Sorensen not going for the move, but getting in nice and tight as they now peel through towards the next right and left. And again, Sorensen still pushing, still prodding, waiting for Rasmussen to make a mistake.
If you look at the ages of the drivers behind those 2 BMWs, you might say that this was youth versus experience, but boy, does that feel disingenuous. Yes, Lasse Sorensen has been around sim racing for so long, team manager over, of course, at Fire Sims, but you mentioned all the success that Freddie Rasmussen has had in F1 Esports. He's been able to do that in other platforms as well, but coming into a new platform for the very first time, that's where you've got to adapt. The one thing that Rasmussen has as a bit of an advantage, though, this land environment will be very familiar for him.
Yeah, and of course G2 Esports Motorsports wouldn't throw him in the mix unless he was capable enough. Only had a month and a half of practice leading up to this event, which is sensational. His quick adaptation could surely be praised in amongst this list of outstanding roster of talents here, as we now see them come wheel to wheel again, heading through Lake Com. They got Malmedy coming up next. You see Holzman and Osgaard currently together too. Kevin Siggy just over 2.5 tenths out the way. Further back, Mitchell de Jong, who is watching all this unfold as we ride on board here with Tommy Usgaard. And again, a great stellar showing from him. We saw his qualifying pace over the course of the Drivers' Championship unfold, and it certainly was impressive. Haven't quite seen the same since, but I tell you what, he's looking comfortable here at Spa.
Yeah, and you know, one of the drivers that was able to make it to the spring major finals over at Munich, but because of the way the points played out, he was always on the back foot somewhat heading into day one, where the points carried forward. We've definitely seen Tommy at times be the fastest Porsche in the field, which is crazy to say when you've got the likes of Josh Rogers and so many other drivers that are quick in that car. And I've got to assume for Tommy, there must be some confidence coming from being the leader of a team. Yes, you can always develop faster if you've got faster drivers around you, but the motivation, the autonomy that comes from being the man behind the team, he seems to be relishing it.
Yeah, he certainly does. So the BMW, as we now ride on board with Kevin Siggy, known to be able to allow its tyres to last. Of course, Siggy is going to try and perhaps go long here at this point. Might challenge Tommy Usgaard late into the race. Team Redline needing an abundance of points if they want to try and challenge RAG at the top end. Of course, we're getting similar pictures to what we saw in the spring series, in a sense that RAG are showing early dominance. The question is, can they carry that through to the rest of this team's championship? Let's wait and see. As he now power out to the bus stop chicane once again. Kevin Ellis Jr. having a tremendous drive right now as Tommy Usgaard gets once again close and personal with Patrick Holzman. A deep descent now heading in towards the source. Very tight, high braking section too. You can see the gravel trap on the left-hand side. Oh, so risky as they now power out from there. And yet again, I'm looking on our screen here, Holzman, he might be under a little bit of jeopardy here. Usgaard is dipping in to within the 0.3 of a second, into the 0.4, flittering out of it. He's threatening Patrick Holzman right now.
He is very much getting closer and closer and closer, but I guess the problem is going to be that for Patrick Holzman, he is so far behind Kevin Ellis Jr., he is getting less draft from the car in front and feeding more draft to the car behind, so Usgaard just going to get closer and closer and closer as those laps tick away. I'll just touch on Kevin Ellis Jr. for a second and his performances in the spring season. He reached 4 finals in the regular season. The rest of the Apex Racing team, 3 amongst the 3 drivers.
Incredible form. He is the shining star for Apex Racing team. We all saw it from the shootout as well over the course of this championship squabble, as we're now seeing them head through now the Jackie X bend, as we're now seeing, of course, that man Freddie Rasmussen still trying to work hard to maintain his pace. There's the RAG as well, belonging to Erhan Yuyovsky, coming into this as team leaders, of course, team championship leaders here at this point too, as now they make their way out to Pouon down towards the Leifania chicane as well. He's got Freddie Rasmussen in front, as we've said. Jack Keithley as well, a second behind, however, and losing aero on the back of that RAG Audi R8 LMS. Kevin Ellis Jr. now we go back to the front as we see Holzman in behind. Now that gap has flitted out. 7.5 to 0.8 of a second is where it sat for quite some time. Tommy Usgaard as well in third has lost a little bit of ground himself. The driver's just sort of getting into an orderly fashion. I get the feeling this is one of those calm before the storm moments.
It's where we're also trying to maybe save a little bit of tires for those final couple of laps, because you may say 7 laps, 15 minutes of racing, well, tires aren't going to matter, but no, the way that you push your tires through the course of the race will very much impact the equipment that you have to fight with come the end, and so maybe just a little bit of restraint shown through the drivers right now. One note as well, when it comes to the balance of these cars, I said Mercedes maybe a little bit more favorable on the tires here, but Spa, one of the tracks that I think across the board a lot of drivers say there's not much to complain about in terms of BOP. That's a good thing.
No, it tends to be a pretty even footing. I think we're seeing that in terms of the deltas as well in places. Lasse Sorensen, however, a second off from Mitchell de Jong, but then again he is under a little bit of pressure from Freddie Rasmussen as well, so it might be that he's more concerned about what's going on behind him at this point. Jack Keithley, I think, having that same experience with Ibrahim Khan in behind too. Of course, we alluded to the fact that BMW are going to be looking for an upturn in their fortunes. It's now Freddie Rasmussen comes over Rouge and Radion once again, and still on the tail this time, but look who's on the tail of him. It's Erhan Yuyovsky, and I tell you what, fear the RAG as now they go to near enough 3 wide. They will do now. Freddie Rasmussen challenging Lasse Sorensen. A brilliant stellar move here as well, but how about the invitation for Erhan Yuyovsky? Can't quite push for it. Lasse Sorensen defending to the hilt as they head through towards Malmedy, but it will be Freddie Rasmussen Rasmussen up into 6th place. Enter Yovski though here, Arjuna.
Around the outside, can he make it stick the long way around? If he's brave, it converts back to the inside and still has that overlap. Sorensen has to show respect, but not willing to fight too hard. Yovski doesn't want to see the train for 6th on pack lose even more time.
Yeah, certainly a stellar showing here from Lasse Sorensen to defend here against that of Erhan Yovski, but Freddie Rasmussen, a great move, an emphatic move where he needed it most. He certainly was losing time to the cars ahead through the car of Lasse Sorensen, holding them up at this point, had to make that measured overtake in order to try and just hunt the runners in front. He's got 1.5 seconds to find now Mitchell de Jong, so he needs to put his foot to the floor. We've only got a small matter of 3 laps, if you include this one, remaining here in this race. Kevin Ellis Jr. just over half a second now clear. That gap though reduced here, Arjuna. Remember, that was 0.8 of a second. It's now near enough half a second. And
it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Holtzman getting a little bit more of that draft now will keep him closer to Kevin Ellis Jr., feed him a bit more of the hole in the air with which he can slither into the rear diffuser of the Apex Racing team machine. For Tommy Osgaard, you've got to wonder as well, now that he's got a bit more of a buffer back to Kevin Siggy, if he can close up to the back of the Audi, is he going to be more incentivized to go for the move, knowing that Siggy's not going to be able to try, and like Yovski, join the party?
Absolutely. Tommy Osgaard, as we're currently riding on board with him, currently sat 3rd place as well within 0.4 of a second. Again, they come together and heading down through towards the Le Source section. We're seeing Lasse Sorensen as well on screen as he tries to give chase to Freddie Rasmussen. Erhan Yovski might be done waiting as well. He had a chance, certainly, to perhaps unlock the door when they nearly went 3 wide, heading up through Kemal. Chose to back out of it, probably the intelligent thing to do as you make your way through towards Lake Com. But nonetheless, now as they peel up through Rouge and Radion once again, it's Freddie Rasmussen leading them through, and in behind this time. Take a look at this. Sorensen getting the lift this time that he would need to challenge out of Freddie Rasmussen. They're going to run side by side again, wheel to wheel now still as they head up towards Lake Com. Erhan Yovski once again watching all this unfold. The Macedonian, though, has got a wonderful drag heading up through now towards this next right-hander, but Sorensen ain't able to make the move here at this point. Yovski forced to wait behind as they head through towards Malmedy. Rasmussen doing enough to shut the door.
And with the BMW's 1 or 2 km/h deficit in top-end speed, you've got to wonder how difficult it must be for Rasmussen to really defend if Sorensen wants to go for it. I think that was tactical from Sorensen. Penultimate lap of the race, doesn't want to be the one left pulling the 2 machines behind. But what concerns me is a Yovski in that 3rd spot behind, being able to take the double toe. Here's his view, though, as he almost got squeezed onto the grass a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, Patrick Holzman, we've got the onboard view, which is quite amazing, actually, when you look at it. This is what you generally see from a driver's perspective inside the car. And as you can see, the 2 ensuing battle, well, the 2 cars ensuing battle there, heading through towards Malmedy. That, of course, being Lasse Sorensen and Freddie Rasmussen. Again, looking to the outside here. This time, of course, Patrick Holzman. The Mouse Audi, though, unable to make that key overtake getting around the outside. He did try and creep and peep. Sorensen shut the door as they make their way through towards Jackie Hicks. Class driving, rubbing his racing, and that's what we're seeing here. We're going into now where we're on the penultimate lap of the race, and take a look at the gap once again. Kevin Ellis Jr. and Patrick Holzman. We did see it dip to the 0.3 of a second mark. It's now sprung up to the 0.5, but I tell you what, Osgaard now, the man to watch. Holzman under a little bit of stress.
It's going to be that exit out of La Source. 2 kilometers before you're next on the brakes at the top of the track at the Lacombe chicane. If Osgaard can get to the outside, do watch if maybe Holzman gets a compromise through Malmedy, and then the opportunity presents itself down the run in towards Bruxelles. I'm not sure exactly who's going to be the bravest of them all, but 1 more lap to go for these drivers in Group B.
Climactic moments, that's what we live for here in ESL R1, and I hope you all do at home as well. A cheeky look in the mirror there from Kevin Ellis Jr. down the bottom left-hand side of your screen. He knows that there's a lot ensuing in behind. He knows that Holtzman wants a piece of him, but at this point, Tommy Osgaard is keeping him honest at this point as well. So essentially giving Holtzman a battle on 2 fronts here at this point as they now hurtle up towards the long Kemmel Straight. Kevin Siggy as well with Mitchell de Jong for company as well. A red line Porsche Coanda battle that certainly we have seen on many echelons here and many, shall we say, journeys through the past of sim racing as we run on board here with Holtzman coming through the Lake Com section. No move can be made, surely not at Kevin Ellis Jr. He's driven a mature drive here as the Apex Racing team.
Yeah, I think we were more worried about Patrick Holtzman coming under fire from Tommy Osgaard, but I don't think that exit out of La Source gave him the run, and now you can see the margin actually closer between the top 2 than 2nd and 3rd spot. There's a battle, though. Ooh. Rubbing wheels for Mitchell de Jong and Kevin Siggy, and for the 2nd consecutive race, bye-bye, Kevin Siggy.
Kevin Siggy again unseated by a Porsche Coanda. What that could mean as well, as I said before, history as well between these two teams that has long existed, and this time they come together again. Mitchell de Jong, as we ride on board with him, you can see expressionless but then a shake of the head as he knows that was not necessary, and I'm sure now he's going to look back and question as to whether that was an issue on his part or whether it was Kevin Siggy.
It did look like, to be fair, the Porsche was very much on the inside curve. Siggy trying to squeeze as much as possible. I'm not going to say either way. I need a couple more looks at that one to be able to try and get an opinion on that. Race Control has infinite views, ultimate discretion as well. Out the front of the field, though, no such drama for Kevin Ellis Jr.
And what's that going to do to Redline's title hopes here in this team's championship? That's the important one. It's bragging rights, folks. At the end of the day, they all want to be labelled the best team in sim racing, the best team in ESL R1. Redline, despite winning the Spring Series Championship, it's going to be that much harder for them, though, this time. But Kevin Ellis Jr., what can we say about a man who has done it time and time again? Apex Racing Team will love this, because he's going to come up towards the line and take victory. It is Kevin Ellis Jr. He wins at Spa-Francorchamps.
Yes! He can scarcely believe it. The shout of what is surely pure adrenaline. The very first victory here in ESL R1, sponsored by Aramco for the Apex Racing Team.
Pure raw emotion from Kevin Ellis Jr. He's a passionate young man. He's certainly a talented young man as well. Has every right to be thrilled. Kevin Siggy storming off in the background as well, but take a look at the reaction. P1 Kevin Ellis Jr., you deserve it, my friend. Tremendous effort, 25 points after the heartbreak at Hockenheim, which led to him getting a penalty and moved to the tail end of the field. That is certainly redemption here for Apex Racing Team.
Oh, but you can see the visible frustration and anger for Kevin Siggy. Ultimately, not much that he could really do. He will be fuming, furious, and I think ultimately watching on in disgust for the rest of the day.
And this is exactly what it means to these drivers, folks. The team's championship, so important, and Kevin Siggy knows that those points might have been vital when it comes to the end of this championship. Again, Porsche Coanda and Team Redline coming together.
I mean, deja vu. How many times over have we seen that one before? I'm sure it's not going to be the first and last time here in ESL R1 either.
No, not at all. He's just sitting there and reviewing with his team boss at Team Redline, and again, a throw up of the arms. His fellow driver, of course, Enzo Benito, in behind, just overseeing what went on. You can see as well Luke Bennett on the left-hand side. Of course, they all want to be on top in this fight. But naturally, the job now has been made that much harder. But take nothing away from this man. It's Kevin Ellis Jr., folks.
And what a maturation it's been for him. Started in the Apex Racing Academy as an oval driver, has developed into one of the best in the iRacing World Championship. Now a race winner here in ESL R1, sponsored by Aramco. Here's a look at the crucial moment, though, for Siggy. De Jong trying to get to the inside, and ultimately the car squirreling out of control for the Porsche and collecting that right rear of the BMW.
Yeah, serious collection indeed. Kevin Siggy, unfortunately, feeling the brunt of that at this point. The Porsche Coanda team went on, though, however, to the end of the race. Here's the reaction. And there you have it. But we are going to be joined with our winner, Kevin Ellis Jr. He is with certainly Barney.
A strong track for you, Kevin, as we all saw yesterday in the Hot Lap Shootout. Congratulations for that win. Is that kind of your track of choice now? It's got to be.
Yeah, 100%. You know, coming into this event, Spa was always my best track. And it's funny, I said to the guys upstairs after Johan had a couple shaky races, I said, don't worry about it, I'm going to win Spa. I was partly joking, but I was obviously hoping it would come true. And yeah, I'm just grateful that I could win a race here. This competition's obviously so stacked, and I missed my girlfriend's mum's wedding for this, so I'm glad that I could at least make it worth it. So yeah, sorry I'm not there. Congratulations to Kate and Steve, and I'll be home soon, Beth. I love you.
Nice one, Kate and Steve.
بالضبط اللي شفناه من المتسابقة معنا أدى أداء جدا ممتاز في هذا المضمار في مضمار سبا. شفنا أدى أداء جدا رهيب وقدرنا يتفوق، فقال إنه من جد كان يستنى هذه اللحظة من زمان عشان يقدر يحقق الانتصار في هذا المضمار، وعطى برضه تحية لكل أصحابه وأحبابه اللي جالسين يتابعون. كم كان هذا الفوز لكم أنتم.
You were holding off Holtzman very well throughout that entire race, but kind of towards the end, we saw the emotion going through your face when you crossed the line finally. Were the tyres starting to give out? Were you getting a bit nervy about that?
Yeah, I said on like lap 5 to Mark, you know, the tyres were really good, and then I had a small slide in sector 2, and they sort of shot up a couple of degrees, and that's just enough to just lose all sorts of grip. So I had to sort of adapt my driving style a little bit. I expected him to come back to me anyway. I couldn't quite break the draft on him. He was always kind of there, so I expected him to sort of pull back, but just had to keep calm, keep breathing, and just remember the marks and keep on hitting them.
صحيح، في شيء جدا مهم اثر عليه برضه في السباق، وكان برضه مسبب له ضغط كبير اللي هو برضه حراره العجلات معه في السباق، فخصوصا في الجولات الاخيره فكان تاثيرها جدا كبير. قام قال صحيح انه كان ضغطها عالي مره، بس انه حاول انه يسيطر عليها بشكل جدا ممتاز، وفي نفس الوقت حاول انه يصنع المسافات اللي كان يحتاجها، وبنفس الوقت قدر خلينا نقول بتعاون برضه مع اصحابه بعض التوجيهات اللي حصل عليها قدر يحقق الانتصار.
Well, Kevin, you could breathe a sigh of relief because you've managed to get some points on the board for Apex Racing Team. GG's, well done for securing that win. And going into the second half of the day of competition, it's going to heat up. Tensions are going to rise. We're going to throw it over to the desk for now because we're going to be heading over to race control once again.
بالضبط اعزائنا المشاهدين، حاب اذكركم ان 6 فرق بس هم اللي بيكملون معنا الى النهائيات، والحين عدينا نص المشوار، باقي لنا مجموعتين بس. خلونا نروح على الاستديو نرجع لكم في السباق اللي بعده.